out of the 3.5 million, close to about 500,000 is just done in 1 year. So which means the speed in which it's getting adopted is quite high. So that also brings in the level of involvement from the human workforce, right? What it means for that kind of a speed in which devices are getting deployed. You generate new sort of avenues for work, right? There's nearly about 150,000 people employed in the worldwide around the robotic engineering and assembling the robots. It is growing, right? The speed in which it's growing is very interesting. So it's also bringing a message to us is, yes, the growth, how much percentage it is growing over year on year. We are talking about in the order of 15%. So essentially meaning in the next 5 years, you will actually double up your capacity of robots and as well as your workforce demand in that space. Now, many times, when we talk about robotics, people will always think, oh, it's going to take my job away, right? That's the usual common sense thinking. But look at from a positive side of it, it brings a lot of new avenues of involvement of work and other specific areas. That is what we're going to talk about today. So what is it is bringing to us, and how it is going to change the way how we are into the industry in multiple segments, and how it's going to help us to be prepared to be close to that industry, right? As a students from the college, you'll always be amazed what I need to learn beyond my college, right? What my curriculum teaches me, and beyond that, what I should do, and how do I be more close to the industry so that I can be employable. That's one of the key questions you guys will have. So how do we break that information down to multiple chunks and see how best it helps you to be more close to the industry, right? Now, when I say more close to the industry, industry is a wide term, but where it is getting applied, how best it's getting adopted in various places, we will go through that in the next hour or so. It's basically like every other company we have done a research. Capgemini also has a research organization. We talk about how things going on in the world, what's happening for us and stuff like that. So we talk about various different industries. We go and do studies. So our results from that studies shows there are about 90% of the business across the globe are going to adapt robotics in automation space by 2030. We are not too far away, right? 90% of the business, we're talking about a huge, massive scale here. So 2030 is not too far away from us. What, 7 years from now? So that's what the focus is now in the industry, where we need to go and how we need to be close to the industry and making sure that we are close to the speed in which the changes are happening. There are quite a lot of new streams of jobs that opens up for us. For example, going into the robotics engineering job, or it could be a services industry around the robotics, or it could be very close to the assembling and creating robots and stuff like that. There are quite a lot of innovations around it, right? It's not stops by working towards the robotics side of the business, but you're also going to work in the space of innovative things being delivered using robots, right? Today, we are talking about scenarios where a soft touch mechanism of robots, how that can help in improving this robotic skill to do a fine, medical surgeries and stuff. So it's growing into those kind of spaces. Yeah. Now, what the robotics are, what the industry brings in, how the future growth looks like. Let's get in further details about what it actually means, right? So what drives this entire robotics industry to rise? On the right hand side, you can see quite a lot of spectrum of element which is sitting there, various different industries. You can see that adoption is growing massively. On the top right box where you see here, the main primary use of robotics so far is in the industry of manufacturing, where the physical labor is very intensive, where things are getting done physically. So we are replacing them in manufacturing space. That's quite normal, usual perception. But beyond that, it's getting into the other industries as well, from services industry like logistics, and it talks about financial industries. you'll be amazed, what the financial industry brings in from an automation perspective. Blockchain, AI, right? How do I do the trading around the world, an automated way of trading? All those things, what we are talking about, it might look like a robotic process automation type of software related thinking, but it is, end of the day, it's an autopilot, right? Something which is done by a human is replaced by a machine, right? Farming industry, quite a lot of changes are happening. How to pick the right cherry tomatoes with the right quality and stuff, and which basket need to be put it in. There's kind of various different things going around. And more interestingly, in the recent times, the developments are more towards healthcare. To bridge the gap between the number of doctors available for population. That's where the adoption of healthcare industry. It's creating a lot of interest. Similarly, military industry. Right? Why would you want to have your own people going and fighting in the front line? Use the robots, right? It's a mission. End of the day, if it dies, it dies. Yeah, you can recreate it. So these are the type of thinking going in adoption level, increasing across the elements. So if you see the trend here, robots are becoming very cheap, going on year by year, right? When the first time robots started being created, it was assumed to be so expensive. Now the robots are very cheap because the equipment manufacturing has become cheaper, and your chip manufacturing has become cheaper. All of them become thinner and slicer, so automatically it's getting cheaper than a human doing the work, right? Similarly, it becomes more capable, right? We are injecting more cobots into the systems. We are putting our thinking into the robots, making it more like a human-driven robots, which is essentially making it more capable robots. Right? It can do more than what it usually do earlier those days. Right? And then demand for manufacturing goods is also rising. Population growth. You can attach it to the population growth. You may think about the heavy investments coming into the space of global manufacturing. So it's driving such kind of in demand. But if you see the small graph which I put it on the bottom, it gives you a perspective about the percentage of growth of robots in the last few years. It's a research done by Oxford Economics. You can see the outcome is very clear from 2011 to 2016, which is roughly about 5-6 years. The growth in non-automotive sector, other than manufacturing of cars or manufacturing of equipments and stuff, non-automotive sector, the growth is enormous. So that's where we need to be very closely associated with and see how best we can grow sustainably close. Yeah, you can see natural growth in the automation sector is driven by electric vehicle manufacturing, solar industry, blah 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 stuff, high-tech manufacturing. You can talk about all those things, but when it comes to robots usage, other than the non-manufacturing industry, it's talking about moving into the service sector. How best it can be utilized. How the humanoid version of the robots. All those things are, making the element of, can I replace something in the front desk? Can I replace something in the answering machine side of it, right? An automated way of handling people work around the, call center jobs or standard jobs and stuff like that. Now, we've talked about what is a robot. We know there are quite a lot of interesting things that are happening around the robots. You guys know the research, which is going around, some of those interesting facts, which is said by one of our students here, and the industry where it is being applied. So these are the main drivers for robotics to grow, right? But what it impacts, how it impacts the industry, right? It's a usual one, right? When you replace a human with a automated robot, you go ahead and think about, yes, I'm replacing a job end of the day, right? So what it actually means, since 2004, every new industrial robot which is installed in manufacturing sector is actually displacing roughly about 1.5 workforce. Meaning what? If there is a robot is deployed in a manufacturing line, meaning there is one employee and a half employee time has been taken away from the business. They are being made redundant, right? They're losing their job. Is it a threat? Yes, of course, it is a threat. Like, if you look at the impact it takes to materialize, right? Every 1.3 worker is being replaced by any small robots every year, which is a natural thing to happen. What it actually means in the industry is that it creates an inequality. So when we mean by inequality, what it intensifies is basically the lower segment of earning potential. When I mean by lower segment, those who are under the labor market, those who are under the physical labor segment, will get replaced quickly soon. So we need to think how we need to be adapting ourselves into that industry market, right? After you finish your college, do you really want to be in a manufacturing facility where you wanted to manage the floor and stuff? You don't need to, because that's going to be replaced by a robot. But you need to think, how you need to switch yourself into a place where how I can control those robots. Put yourself into shoes. Okay, now that the revolution is already in here, how do I make most of it, right? That is where you need to think, right? Now, if you look at a quick example, when the tractors were introduced in the farming industry, it was a huge change. There's nobody wanted to buy tractors, nobody wanted to use them because it is actually killing the labor market. But now you go into any farming space, any farmer's environment, without a tractor, they won't live. Right? It's a minimum it's a minimum viable expectation in information which need to be there. So that is how this is going to change our lifestyle. Yeah. Now you've seen that various sectors of robots mean impact spreading faster. And can any one of you point out to me, what is a classical powerful invention which is common in the recent times in the software industry? Anyone? Is it audible? You guys can hear me? Okay, fine. I think there is a resistance in giving the answer back, but that's okay. It's a usual expected. Look, you have seen most of the impacts what it brings into the industry, right? Existing inequalities, and there are a couple of things which you can observe from our way of working life in India itself. Major cities like Chennai or Mumbai or Kolkata or any manufacturing hubs like Pune and places, you won't find any massive, this gaps. But if you go into the rural side, there is a hidden vulnerability, right? You're wiping out a couple of massive job sectors, which essentially making it more vulnerable to those industry segments. Now, what is the new innovative thing which is in the software industry, which is disturbing the whole world right now, is the AI, right? Whether we like it or not, AI is there. It is actually disturbing us. Every other product which is coming up in the market, every other equipment which is coming up in the market is getting more intelligent. What it means is, even the washing machine which you use on a daily basis nowadays, you can even control your washing machine from your phone, from anywhere, right? The fridge which is getting sold in the market, you can see the fridge. When you go into the shopping space, you forgot what to buy, right? You can just look it through your phone and to the fridge and see, what is missing, what is not there in my fridge. I can even go and buy those stuff. So those kind of impacts are already in there. So those software industry bringing those kind of intelligent information back to the people's hand, which is making them to be more aware, more useful into the space, and at the same time making it more effective usage of all those equipments. So that's the power of artificial intelligence, right? Now that is already there. In recent times, I think you guys have already seen another webinar from one of our ex alumni as well, talking about artificial intelligence. I think there are quite a lot of topics which he covered, also connects back to the how the artificial intelligence is being adapted in various different segments. One of them is the robotics, right? He even touched on those topics. So it's an interesting area. Artificial intelligence is becoming a core curriculum nowadays. EDS are more aware, more getting used to it, but it is also one of the critical change in the software industry, which is making it more effective. Now, what is beyond in artificial intelligence? Talking about neuroscience, neurological impact, putting the thinking process into the artificial intelligence machine to make the equipment or the device or the software to think like a human. That is what the industry is driving towards, right? Now, there's another quick one I wanted to call out before we go into the next aspect of what it means for us. Wherever we see an ability for us to be more close to the device or more information and data, that makes us more powerful, right? Back in 10 years, or even the time when we were doing our college studies, we never been exposed to a mobile device, right? But the device which you have in your hand, it gives you the power to get more information and more data. Most of the mobile devices are becoming AI aware, and it's becoming more industrial aware in terms of informations and stuff. The data and the science behind the data is also one of the critical factor which is impacting the robotics industry, right? That drives the robotics industry to the next level as well. So artificial intelligence, data science, data management is driving the fact of what the future will look like for our robotic industry. Yeah. Now, there are a couple of topics I wanted to go through after this, just to cover various different elements of aspects like how this changes the various industry, and where the innovations are coming into the robotics, and what you need as an individual to prepare yourself to address those challenges, and how you need to be looking forward, what you need to do further in your career, right? What you need to do further in your studies to make yourself equipped to do all those things. But I'll pause here for a minute because we are almost close to 30 minutes of our session. Right? Is there any specific questions you guys have so far? Before I go into the other segment of this session. Happy to answer them. Anyone?
So I have a question. Like Indian startups are booming very fastly in an enormous manner, but compared to hardware, software side startups are booming very faster than the hardware side. But if you see on other side, like Boston Dynamics makes their product Atlas, which creates a huge impact around the world. So, is there any possibility for any Indian startup to become like Boston Dynamics?
Very interesting question. See, this is very very much down to the way how the Indian economy works, right? So if you see the dynamics of change, there are a couple of questions coming in the chat window. I'll answer one of them as well. Let's wait. So the way in the Indian industry works is, if you see the period, you guys are very close to Tamil Nadu, right? You're all living in Tamil Nadu. You're in the industry segment in that space, and you are also learning, in one of those Anna University curriculum courses and stuff. The reason I'm focusing more towards that Tamil Nadu segment, if you see the last 5-6 decades of journey of Tamil Nadu, there are quite a lot of things they have done. Interestingly, the first thing what they did is a little bit of an infrastructure open up, right? They connected every village and stuff with the roads. They connected transportation system, making people mobile. The second stage, what they did is promoting studies. Every other individuals who are there, they have brought them into the specific space of, yes, I am learning something outside of my core area of expertise. I'm doing something new, going into the engineering and logical thinking process and stuff, adapted more into ourselves into a more logical and dynamic thinking. Now, the next generation of changes happened in the medical industry as well. There are quite a lot of things which we did in that space to promote ourselves to be more of a thinkers, right? Now, we are a quite broad workforce where we have quite a lot of people around us. Every one of them need the churnouts, right? Everyone need their day job for them to feed themselves and live themselves. So our focus in our Indian economy is more focused towards intellectual knowledge development, making us to be more intelligent, driving the model of industrial change, driving the model of innovations and stuff, rather more focused around the underlying automation segment, physical hardware automation segment. The more and more we bring in automation segment, we will have a different problem to handle. So our economy is driven by that. Whereas if you see the Chinese economy, that is driven by completely different dynamics, right? They have huge amount of population as well, like India, but they are moving into more automation, more manufacturing, replacing those jobs and stuff. So there is a skill gap between those sectors are very high. But if you look at the American market, there are more fascinating things to do. They want to do a lot of things by replacing the humans and stuff. That is also creating their own industrial problems of job losses and few other challenges. So there is a dynamics of how the Indian economy want to be and where we wanted to position our Indian economy, how we want to grow. That is all political, economical subjects also driving the fact about where we will put our efforts into in driving those changes. If you see the recent times, one of the key things which have happened in India, which is a huge revolution, which nobody else across the world can adapt to such kind of speed, is the UPI payment gateway. And now you go anywhere, you just scan the QR code and you can transfer money from one to another, right? That is not there even in US or UK market, which is more advanced market, which is being seen as an advanced market. It is not there. So that is the drive force for us to go forward, right? But if you look at the American market, when you talked about the Boston Dynamics, the way of thinking around physical hardware changes, they are more focused around replacing the underlying low-level workforce, which is not our focus. That's the difference between the way how things are working between those economies. If you see the adoption level of robotics across the industry, across the countries, there's quite a lot of you can see India is in the very most at the bottom end of the spectrum, whereas China and North Korea and Korea and Japan and in the US are in the top quartile of adoption level for robotics. There is a dynamics behind it. It's a political, economical driven subject, and also depending on how much workforce we generate every year. Countries like America, US, or UK kind of places, the average age of a population is roughly about 45 plus, right? There's no young workforce. But in an Indian market, you have an young workforce, which is average age of an Indian population is only about in the range of 20, early 20s. So that is what driving these kind of changes. But it's not a one single answer why we can't focus there, but it is possible, but it is driven by the way how we are structured ourselves. Right? It needs a structural change. Government policies, the way in which we focus on the economy, how we grow ourselves into those various segments. I know it's a long and windy answer for you, but it is hopefully it gives you some perspective about why these things are not in India yet. Yeah. So next question I think you have in the chat window: what courses we need to study to work in the field of robotics? Excellent one. Reserve your question. I have slides to cover, in terms of where you need to be and what you need to be doing in equipping yourself into those, robotics industry. I'll cover that definitely in the later slides. Okay. Move on. The next topic. We spoke about various elements of, how the market is getting reshaped, how things are changing. So a couple of things is we also spoke about robots are moving more from a manufacturing industry into the service segment. What it means, the service segment, what is the service segment is? I don't understand, sir. Industry segments, various sectors and stuff. Manufacturing is very simple. You can understand it's a car manufacturing or equipment manufacturing or, the tractors and few bikes and stuff manufacturing segment. But we go to beyond manufacturing segment, industries like healthcare. Doctors are using more, robots to do the surgeries now than, 5-6 years before, right? But the robots which they use is like more of like cobots, like somebody is sitting there controlling few surgeries, At the same time, one doctor conducting 4 surgeries in different hospitals, controlling those devices through his instructions and intelligence about what's happening, what's going around in that operation theater. And that is becoming popular now. So assisted surgeries are more getting popular. Robots are playing a critical role. Retail segment. There are shops in London already open where you can just walk in with your QR code. You can just scan yourself. And then when you walk out by taking whatever you want to take, it's automatically getting billed and it's sent your receipts into your, which essentially meaning the whole shop. Only the people who brings the material into the racks, stack them, and then go out. Only those people are employed. There is no people in the till. Nobody's collecting money. Nobody's generating receipts. Nobody's helping you to get things into the basket. All that is replaced. It's like something like Amazon Go store in US. It is getting popular, right? It's slowly getting adapted. Hospitality sector. A slow deployment of automated check-ins. Like you can go to any hotels now in the emerging or the growing market segments where hotel receptionists are getting replaced by the devices, right? Robots. And you can interact with them. You can get the right thing for yourself in terms of room specifications and stuff. You check in, and then the robots will move your luggage into the room. You don't need to do anything. So those kind of segments are growing. Similarly, transportation. You can see autonomous vehicles growth, self-driving, self-aware. Not every country has a legal mechanism to control the automated vehicles. Like in America, it's open. Anybody can drive automated vehicle, the Teslas and Lexus and stuff. You can just leave it on automated mode. You can drive. No restrictions, no rules and stuff. But in market like UK and Europe, you can't let the vehicle drive on its own. You have to have self-control. So you need to be there in front of the wheel. You need to instruct the equipment how it should behave. So that is a difference between those two market segments. But in India, we are not ready yet there because the roads are not defined for it. The structural arrangement is not helpful for us to let the self-automated vehicles to drive. Assume a Tesla automated drive car comes into roads in Chennai or kovilpatti. Every few seconds it will stop because it will sense some objects on the road, right? So you need to have a proper infrastructure for it to be more aware, more able to utilize in those kind of market segments. So that is what driving the industrial revolution in the various other countries. Now, if you look at the assisted surgery segment, which is a very interesting topic, usually we have a segment of a medical student and an engineering student, right? Now there is a merge happening between those two. There's an engineering student aware of the medical subjects. A doctor is getting aware of the engineering subject to come to a common point. How do I use this equipment? Right? It's a new industry by itself is getting generated out of this robotics revolution. There's a segment where engineers are getting more knowledge about how to touch a human body, how to operate, so that they can control the robots' codes appropriately. Whereas the doctors are getting to know about how do I instruct the machine to more efficient, which button I need to click, or which control code I need to execute to make this machine more effective. So that's a new segment, right? It's a new industry by itself. It's coming up. Whether we like it or not, we are there already, right? How much job opportunities that brings in is a new dynamics where we need to look at it, the way how we equip ourselves, right? And AI, like the power assisted shopping, which I talked about, it's all driven by AI, right? With multiple cameras sensing where you are and what you are picking up, which shelf you are picking up things from, how many quantity you picked up, the weighing of equipments. Now every item which is kept in the shelf is weight driven. If it is 200 grams, if you pick up 2 of them, the 400 grams is getting reduced, which means you picked up 2. It's an intelligence built into the model where it's getting itself aware that what you are doing inside through all the cameras and sensors, and your body thermosensors has been placed across all over those places so that it knows who is moving around. Even if there is 10 people inside the shop, it knows exactly who you are and where you are in the shop, which aisle you are picking the items from. That is the power of AI and the engineering and the topics of thermal engineering and dynamics of physical locations and artificial intelligence driven data management, right? And sensors driven equipment calibration. So many things I can think about behind that, right? There is an industry behind which is working to develop those kind of mechanisms. That is what we need to work towards in targeting, right? Now, moving on, you have heard about various industry segment changes happening, labor market, how it is driving yourself, how to respond, right? We talked about various different element of things happening in the back end for the robots to be more active, more effective, more human driven, more cobots type of equipments. But what it brings in, the new service segment opportunities, you will definitely have a workforce mobility in different sectors, right? Like when I said about the tractors, when it is introduced, farmers, the people labor who actually does plant the seeds and stuff, everybody is moved out because it is replaced by a machine. Where did they go? They went into a different service sectors. Likewise, in modern industrial revolution as well, you will see people moving from manufacturing jobs into various different segments, move towards transportation, office management, food and industries, installation of maintenances of those equipments. There's so many other things, construction industry, everywhere will shift will happen. So it is all interconnected. When you move from one to another, you're actually making a change in that industry as well. So that is a different element of sectorial impact, which will bring this robotics to be more powerful, more effective as well. Now, this also has an element of drive force behind our ICT function, which is the ICT is the term which is commonly used across for software industry, right? So there is a quite huge amount of drive towards the software industry. You will be asked to do something more into the data management, data sciences, understanding various segment of data coming in from various sensors, various equipments. You put together all of the data. You need to make sure that you are driving a meaningful outcome of the data, right? A quick example, you take the Chandrayaan-3, which is launched recently. There is multiple different things you can derive out of that, right? You see the Chandrayaan-3 launch, how much time and precision and the data which is required for that launch to happen. You need the weather to be supportive. You need to have your ecosystem around you in the globe. There should not be any other work movements around that. No other military actions to happen around the space. And on the space itself, you need to find the right path. Everything is driven by data, and how it is controlled through software and the codes and management of those devices. Now, when it lands in, it rotates around Earth for quite a long time. Somebody might be reading some articles about when America launched Chandrayaan Apollo mission, just reached 3 days to moon. But when India launches, why it takes 40 days? Are we so inefficient? No, we are so intelligent. We know how to utilize our resources effectively, right? We use Earth gravity to move the robot, the equipment, and force that into the circle of the moon's gravity. Look at the amount of data which it brings in, and every minute of that movement of that device, you need to be controlling that from remotely. It's all done by softwares, right? It's all done by the codes, the information data coming from those devices. You're actually making use of it, making sure that you are developing your logical thinking around it. The codes which you develop should be able to consume the data, transport it like what you normally do as a human, and then apply that logic and then drive that equipment into the right direction, right? So that is the power of the software industry which is bringing in, right? So you need to have that kind of various interactive skills and foundational skills. You need to build yourself to get into those ICT skills as well to make sure you're able to deliver yourself into those kind of market. Now, somebody asked me what I need to do further, sir. What I should learn to be more effective into the software industry, into the robotics industry. So there are quite a lot of things happening in robots, right? You can talk about various subjects. There are so many universities offering so many different courses. But from a skill perspective, for robotics industry, you need to be associated closely with the robotics industry. You need to have artificial intelligence knowledge, something around artificial intelligence. Study something about robotics. There are subjects like mechatronics. What it means. Mechatronics means what? It's a physics and logical thinking skill applied on a robotics industry. It's a mechanical movement of the robots. How do you do that? How do you make the movements very soft? The hand movements of the robots, usually it used to be very cranky, clunky. Nowadays it becomes very soft, like a human hand movement, right? So those are the topics which is taught in the mechatronics subjects. Robotics engineering itself. How do I manufacture? How do I make the shell of the robots more powerful and strong? Mechanical stuff around it. It is beyond software industry. There's quite a lot of subjects you need to be made yourself aware of. And of course, computer science and mathematics, which is essential skill for coding, making it the equipment to react to the way how you want to react, and the data science, which we talked about. Now, those are the type of courses you can take further from your university forward. Get yourself equipped in one of these topics. Get yourself, not necessarily you need to do a complete course out of it. I need to spend another, so I need to go for another, 2 years course of these subjects and stuff. No, not necessarily. There are universities focused around running diploma courses or online courses on these subjects. It is just that, you need to have the knowledge, and you need to have some universities certifying that you have the knowledge. That's it. You don't need to go through a full course, right? Now, what you need as a skill in making yourself be more adaptable to the robotics industry. Develop yourself into the engineering and science and technology, which is essential skill, which you are anyway going through your course. You don't need to do anything beyond. Knowledge of computers, that's more important. When I say computers, I'm not talking about the laptops, desktops, and sitting out there machines, which is mainframe machines and stuff. I'm talking about systems, so how it works, and operating system knowledge about a codeless servers, hardware. How do I use the hardware? How do I control the hardware? And development of any language, either you can take, right from Python or down to C, C++, the code. It is still used. C, C++ are still powerful, languages. It is not obsolete yet, because some of these Chandrayaan programs, which you see, everything which is controlling the devices, the codes are written in Visual C++ and C, right? You wouldn't imagine that's how it is. Some of those powerful languages, Java, it is, you still need to learn one of those. Why you need to learn is you just need to know the techniques, how to apply those codes, right? Maths, essential. Don't lose the math skill, design skill, knowledge around it, but verbal communication skills. This I'm moving it down from a technology skill down to the level of how do we apply it. Thinking and reasoning powers. Go through some courses around complex problem solving. Attempt online, hackathons or kind of programs run by various companies. Try to be more involved in those kind of things. That will give you an insight into where you can tap into those kind of problem solving skills. It is nothing simple. Problem solving is not too hard, right? When somebody comes to you with a question, oh, sorry, I'm not able to do something, you will ask simplified question, right? Why? What is causing your problem? Blah, blah, blah stuff. Ask those 5 questions. You will get an answer simply, right? So those kind of skills is what you need essentially to build. And it is important that, you equip yourself. Otherwise, going forward in a longer run, you need to be more than the knowing the technology a little bit, right? A software technology bit and the subjects which you need to study around it, only about 20% of your skill. The remaining 80% of your skill comes in with your soft skill. How do you communicate? How do you land your message? How do you make sure that the other person understands your concept? And how do you make sure you are able to move a workforce into a more productive way of working, right? That's the important bit. I hope that answered your question. Yeah, I think very silly. Good. What are the scope in computer vision field? Interesting. I talked about one of the subject about an automated store, right? Today, I can walk into one of the store in London. I can just go in with a QR code I can just walk in, and the cameras out there is sensing and scanning myself and realizing my profile with my device QR code, and it senses, yes, I am the person. It is a computer vision developed, artificial vision developed mechanism which recognizes who you are. And then when you go into each aisle, this thermosensors and stuff, it actually develops those kind of things. But beyond that, if you look at computer vision subject, which is very interesting subject too. Now, those days, 10, 15 years before, if you look at the Google Map or Google Earth, for example, you can go and zoom in to a particular level only, right? But now you're going much more deeper into the road and to the object which is sitting on the road. Even the small object which is on the side of the road, you can zoom in and visualize. How that is happening? It is not a mechanical camera zoom which is allowing you to go there and visualize to that level. There is no such cameras available for beyond 30 feet or 40 feet away, right? There are telescopic cameras available, but that senses all this light signal coming in. It contributes that light signals into more meaningful objects. There are quite a lot of research happening around in IIT Roorkee, IIT Kanpur, and IIT Mumbai places about computer vision subjects. Sensing some object, even if it is a blurred visionary picture, you can make meaningful data out of it and recreate that image into a more meaningful content. That is another area where healthcare sector is very much relying on, right? When you transport, when you do an automated surgery, right, assisted surgery element, you are actually visualizing something through a camera, right? The quality of the camera, the material input coming into it need to be more precise. Otherwise, the doctors, the way they instruct the equipment to do the function will be very, very obscure, right? If assume there is a minor operation happening on your knee surgery, for example, there is a minor operation happening. If the image is not clear to the doctor, he might give a wrong signal, right? So vision subject is also very important. AI, data, analytics, and it's all coming down to the concepts of how you put together those material together, right? How do you improve the vision of the equipment? How do you make sense out of various, distracted images, relationship between them, a multi-terrain, for example, if you're mapping various different, terrain, the depth of the terrain is also will vary when you capture the image from the satellites, right? How do you make meaningful image out of it and show a three-dimensional view of it? That is a powerful thing. This is also an essential topic when it comes to improving the robot's visionary skills. What it scans, it's not an IVR scan, right? Nowadays, it's changed from IVR scan to be more of a humanoid scan. The eyeball movements inside the robots nowadays, senses how we see the object in front of us, right? It is also used in the applicability area of how do I pick the right cherry? When I pick up the tomato from the tree, how do I instruct the robot? How the color pattern and as well as the depth of the skin, everything has been sensed through the vision ball, and then pick up the right one by ignoring the other ones which to grow further to be more mature. So these are the areas where the adaptability of these robotic skills are very essential, right? Good. I think good questions, guys. Interesting. Okay, so what's out there? And I think this is my last slide to give you the information about what's the industry driving towards. I think most of these elements we have already spoken about. Yeah. So robots now can learn from watching videos. Exactly what you asked about, the question about vision, right? They can learn more by looking at the objects in front of it and make meaningful outcome of it. Now, if I pick up my coffee cup, the robots in front of me now understand, oh, I'm going to drink a coffee. It'll pause for a minute before it talks. So these kind of sensible, meaningful changes are coming in. So like robotic fingers becoming more softer, more device crawl control, it can even operate a mouse by its own. You cannot, by your own thinking, what you think in your mind, the robots can actually do the work for you. So similarly, Google is planning to replace the entire workforce through worker robots. What it means, they have codes available in the cloud. You develop equipment, you download the code and apply to that code robot. The robot will act like that. Right? You can select you wanted a manufacturing person, or floor walker, or you wanted a physical lift person who's lifting the equipments and stuff. You can download those codes. The robots will act like the particular personality. They are developing something on that sort. It's already available in the trial in some places, but it is it is used in businesses like Ocado in UK. Their entire logistics management is controlled by robots and the personalities of individuals. Momentum Mechanics, another company developing multitasking capability within a robot. This is more like if you see the way how the burgers are made in McDonald's. Now there's one person toast the burger, bun, another person keeps some of the elements into the fryer, picking up and putting it in together. It's like a multiple tasks done by various different individuals. Now they're replacing all of them with a single machine. It might sound very easy to say, yeah, it's 10 people doing the job, one machine is doing. It's not that, At the same time, multitasking. When it is one hand is frying items, another hand is picking up the stuff and putting it together. So it's kind of that can only be done by a human so far, because we can think that the sixth sense will allow us to do that. Another example is Soul Robot is designing a robot to fight against Ebola virus. What it means, in a contained room, the robot will come in and do complete cleanup of the room by killing all of targeted Ebola viruses. It won't kill any other bacteria around, because bacteria are very useful bacteria for ourselves. It kills only those targeted viruses. Pepper is talking about humanoid robots adapting into more of like a attitude-driven human. When the robot's talking to me, depending on my mood, depending on my expressions, it will change its own answer or its own way of interacting to me, which is exactly what you do when you talk to your own friends, right? Depending on friends' mood and expressions, you change yourself the way you interact with them. That's how they are designing robots around them. These are examples what's coming in the robotic industry, but you can look out for more innovations when you grow more into those topics and subjects. Okay, so that's me bringing your topic of what it means for the robotics industry and what is available in the market now, and what type of skills you need to develop yourself and how you need to equip yourself. And we talked about various changes that's coming. I'll stop here and ask for any questions. Tell about natural language processing. Okay, so quite a lot of questions now here. Okay, 3 of them. I'll answer one by one. And so the first one is about difference between AI and RPA. So it's a very delicate or detail-oriented question. Let me put it that way. RPA is more of a process automation, right? Robotic process automation. Yes, you will use AI in doing the RPA, but RPA is not about AI, right? Artificial intelligence is more about how we think. We are integrating that thinking into a machine. Whereas RPA is more about what steps you follow. You are incorporating that steps into the machine. Thinking is different from a step what you do. That is the massive, simple difference between an AI and an RPA, right? Usually people get confused, but it's quite a good question. Watch out. Every step you follow is RPA. What you do within a step is your intelligence which you apply. That is where the difference between AI and RPA. So tell about natural language processing. This is something very interesting, right? You might have seen the news recently. One of the news channel in Orissa launched an AI news reader, right? It can deliver the message to the audience in any language, in the natural way of delivering. How we talk, right? How we modulate ourselves, what we deliver as a message. It can do that kind of a message delivery to the audience. Where it can source the information from? That's a beautiful, powerful mechanism, data around the world, right? It can pick up information from various news reading materials. It can deliver the message. Natural language is basically toning your language into the machine language into more of adaptive human language. Nowadays, you can even go to Google Home device or Amazon Alexa devices, and you can even whisper to the device. It will reflect you with a whisper. When you talk very softly, it will reflect back to you with a soft tone. That's about language processing. It's also controlled through codes. It also controls through adaptive learning, and it also goes back with the backend intelligence of AI. All are interconnected, right? You need to be very careful about. Quantum computing play a major role in AI. It is already, when we talk about quantum computing, it is already in practice in many places. Like NASA is already using quantum computing in Mars missions. It's already in practice. Whether it will impact it or in a wider sense, it's down to the ability of the quantum computing availability to the wider industries. Quantum computing is a new technology, right? It's powerful, and it takes a huge amount of money to deploy. By maybe another 3-4 years, the research is more advanced. You can manufacture it very low cost. Of course, yes, it will be more powerful in that space. What do you think about robot could never ever take over the world? This is where all the governments are working towards. There is no regulations, right? How far you can adapt the robots and how far you can deploy the robots. There is no such control mechanisms available. There are countries who are already thinking through about what regulations we need to put in place. People are talking about, can I bring a chip cell which I can implant in my brain, copy all my neuron activities, and I can put the same chip cell in another person's mind. He will start reacting like me, right? There is a limitations in doing such things, but that is where the regulations coming in play to be more effective, to make sure that what we should do is what we should do, rather than just going ahead and doing random things which actually, you can take a quick example about our own movie made by our Shankarji, director Shankar, right? Endran movie. You might have seen it. Rajinikanth acting as a person controlling the robot, but the robot reacts completely differently if it is left uncontrolled. Cyber security topic. That is a very important topic when you go on doing these kind of elements, where you can improve your skills, how to make the equipment more safe, more controlled, how to put the right restrictions in front. That is another industry by itself. You can learn more about cybersecurity topic, go into that space. More than somebody is making a robot, you can sit together around the robot and control unwanted things to go in, somebody hacking in, doing something around it. Now, I think the questions are coming quite good, and we are almost 2 minutes past 11. I guess okay for me to continue answering questions, or you want to pick it up as a separate answer to those questions by written response? I'm okay either way. Okay, let's cover one by one. What do you think the biggest challenge will be for robotics in the future? I think it's only the human innovation and thinking power, right? There is nothing which is going to be challenging for the robots to make a change in the industry. The regulatory controls and making sure that right level of control put in place is very essential. That might slow down the robots adoption level or growth level. You don't have any restrictions, to be very precise. No biggest challenges. Anything is up to your innovation, how to your thinking, right? How do you make the system that control the robot? Okay. How do you make a system which controls a robot? I'm struggling to think through the question itself, but let me comprehend. So your question is about, yes, there is a robot, but how do I control it, right? So first of all, when you build a robot itself, you know what the robot need to do, right? You have a control mechanisms of what you wanted the robot to do. You need to put check and balances around the equipment to control it in a way how you wanted that robot to behave. So it's a kind of a software driven or self-aware intelligence driven or data driven. You can think through various aspects. You can control the robot in a way how you want it to control. That's why I always say any industry level revolution or any changes in the market has human effect into it. Without being us controlling those devices, it's not going to be there in existence. And we're not going to let that control us, right? You need to be very careful about how you want to deal with it. If you give a wrong signal to it, it throws a wrong output, right? It can't generate that intelligence by itself unless you instruct. For example, you might have heard about the very beautiful AI chatbot thingy coming in from Microsoft, right? OpenAI, ChatGPT. You go on there, ask anything out there, it'll throw you out the text. But if you ask some specific question towards what it means to particular location or informations are around it, it'll throw you an information back saying that, sorry, I can only make you available with the information what is out there in the internet, open forums and research facilities and stuff. That's the check you need to put in place in the ChatGPT. Otherwise, now, if you continuously talk to it, it'll respond to you in a way how you wanted that to be responding. But it's also a dynamics of how you wanted to control the communication channel between those two individuals, right? If you make it more humanoid, it's also a risk. But you make it more mission oriented, it is also a restriction to the innovation. So you need to be carefully think about it. There are work happening around it. So you can see various research papers around it in the world. There are mechanisms they're putting in place to control the robots. The only thing which you can think about is putting a peripheral control around it, making sure that you're not letting that robot to be more hacked or more controlled by somebody else. But it is also a very interesting way of thinking. How do I control robots? Means, can I make it to do something which I can't do it? Yes, you can, but think sensibly. Activities which you don't want to do ethically, do you want the robot to do it? I'm putting it very softly and gently for you guys, but think through that aspect. When you walk in a road, you really wanted to, hit somebody hard because you don't like that person. But is it really sensible to do it? You can get the robot to do that work, right? But it is also a sensible thing to think through whether you want the robot to do or do you want to harm somebody. That is an aspect you need to think through, right? Can the AI of robot travel through time? It is actually, it can travel through times. It can travel through various mechanisms. You can actually build the data which it captures. You can actually roll back into those time frames, or you can feature forward to a time frame. There are researches happening. That's why I said, Google's personality-driven code you can download, which is actually going very close to those kind of AI time travels. You can download a code about a person who's 15 years behind. You can download a code and you can make that robot to act like the person who are 15 years behind. You can also do the other way around as well. So it is possible. What kind of skills do you think will be the most valuable for people who want to work with robotics in the future? What type of skills? I think we covered that in the presentation, some of those core skills which you needed. Say, for example, if you are talking about most interesting skill which you needed, yes, there is no one single answer, right? Skills means, it's your knowledge, right? How you develop yourself. So, of course, you need to have your thinking and reasoning skills and complex problem solving skills and soft skills are very essential, and as well as your coding and awareness of various different hardwares, how the equipment reacts, what are the new things coming up in the market, getting to know about it, and mechatronics as a subject, how physically controlling the devices and stuff. Those kind of topics you need to know a little bit more. And see, it is like this, right? Earlier when we used to study engineering, we are very focused on electrical subject. For example, those days, 5 core subjects. If you see engineering subjects, it's only electrical. It's not electrical electronics. It was electrical, and then mechanics, engineering, and then civil engineering. Those are the three core subjects which was there those days. Then it became electronics as a subject because the industry moved. When the electronics subject came in, electrical department become electrical and electronics. There is a merge required. Now, when you study about those areas, you are also learning about thermodynamics. Why? How do you operate your chip in an electronics world in a more controlled thermal way? Right? How much stress you can apply onto the chip? How much temperature it generates? How do I apply cooling mechanism around it? So this is all about mechanical. So you're actually expanding your subject to much bigger and broader, right? So that is what is actually becoming more powerful nowadays. Things are coming together. You are actually expanding your knowledge. So the skill perspective, you need to learn much more than what your actual core subjects are. If you are a computer science student, coding is very essential and that is your core subject. But you also need to know how to manufacture the chip, how to manufacture a chip which has a particular code which doesn't blow out the chip in terms of heat. Right? Okay. Potential job opportunities and skill sets will be in high demand in the field of robotics. I think we covered that as well in the past. I think in the session. Robotics engineering itself is a subject. Artificial intelligence as a subject area where you can go into in the field. Data and science, data management and science. There is an intelligent place, and there are analytics, data analytics subject. Data science is different. Data analytics is different. Right? Data science is all about collecting. Data analytics is about how do you apply that engineering around that data, what to make meaningful outcome of it. Those are the various broad skills, but you can also talk about various other applications as well. In what ways can robotics and artificial intelligence work together to create a more adaptable and versatile robots? Absolutely, you're there. You can already see that in practice. I talked about Chandrayaan, and there are quite a lot of examples out there. I think most of what you are asking now is already been captured in our session. But please go through the recording, and you might also see the various different elements of application of those robotic skills. Excellent. So somebody saying thank you for your response. So that's the time check for me to stop talking. Yeah. Good, guys. Thank you. I hope you answered most of your questions, and very interactive. Good with the questions in the chat window. And I really appreciate your time as well as listening to me. And thanks for organizing this. I think the team who's behind organizing this, I should say a special thanks.
Sir, thank you, sir, for clearly explained about the future of robotics.
Thank you. Excellent. So are we done? Any other questions further, or we are ready to close?
Yes, thank you, sir.
Excellent.
Thank you for your time.
Good. Good. Have a nice day. Rest of the day. And you will hear the details about me on the forums. You can connect with me if you want in LinkedIn or any other forum of Medium. If you want to connect and ask some questions, happy to answer you guys. Yeah, I'm also there in the NEC Alumni website. You can connect with me through there. My email address and contacts are there in the portal as well.
Sure, sir. I will check the students. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Bye.